how many social medias will allow right now to live it. But if they do, yeah, that's a good thing. If they don't do, then that's another good thing. Let other get the knowledge from you. So yeah, always share all the things that I may have on other things. But let's see. Okay, guys, let's put it in this context. Uh, in this session, my goal with you guys is to cover each and every single thing that we know about PMP. My goal will be, Jeremy, you are very your comments are really interesting. Yes, uh, put it based on your limitation. Let other get the knowledge. Yes, would be interesting. Sharing. Thank you, everyone. Like this is an interesting thing. Acha, putting 20 minutes. So, guys, my goal in this session is basically to cover each and every single concept in PMP, and I'll try to do it in 2 hours or so. So, anyway, you lost me, please ask the question. I want these sessions to be as interactive as humanly possible so that you can understand the context of PMP, you can understand each and everything that is about PMP. This is a very important thing that we follow that schedule, we follow that entire thing, how the things are going to do. I'm gonna share my screen, and do let me know if you can see my screen properly. Okay, will this be available to refer back in future? I'll see. I haven't decided yet that will it be available in future or not, but we'll see that thing. But not yet. We haven't planned that thing. Maybe, maybe not. I'll see at the end of the session. Hi, good evening, Varmathu. Good evening, everyone. And yeah, so let's see how this session goes and how we can work into that thing. Acha ji, I will go through this session one by one, and now I'm trying to share my screen. Okay, so if you can see my screen, please put it in the chat box. Yes, we can see your screen. Okay, I'm gonna go with the new one. Yeah, please put in the chat box that you can see my screen. Okay, put in the chat box that you can see. Okay, I also open myself from the other medium so that I can see my screen. Okay, guys, so let's start. PMP. PMP stands for Project Management Professional. So I'm going with the basic of the basics. How the thing starts? It starts in order to do PMP, you must have graduation plus 3 years of experience. Which means if you want to do PMP and you have graduation, you must have done graduation at least in 2020 19. I would say that would be the best case scenario. But if you don't have graduation, you have high school diploma, you need to have 5 years of experience. PMP exam has 180 questions. It has 180 questions, and you will have 230 minutes to solve those questions. This exam is actually divided into three parts: A part, B part, and C part. A, you have 60 questions. B, you have 60 questions. C, you have 60 questions. You need to manage the time for that exam. You can get you can spend all the time in the first section, or what I recommend, put 80 minutes in the first section, 75 in the second section, and 75 minutes in the third section. More will come at the end of this. I'll further explain how to manage the time. So one of the most important thing to understand when you are solving the PMP question, when you are working with the PMP question, is that majority of the questions will be basically MCQs with single option. Okay, MCQs with single option. Okay, what do I mean by that? You will solve a question and have option A, B, C, D, and you have to select one right answer. This will be the way into your PMP questions. I hope that is clear to everyone. If this is clear, put in the chat box. Yes, this is clear. I will be asking you throughout the session at each step, is it clear or is it not clear? Okay, that is very important that you understand what I am saying and how we clarify each and every single process, that how much experience is needed. And if you have any confusion, you can ask me. Okay, I would love to see 100 on paper. All right. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Clear, clear. 3 year experience relevant to PMP. 3 year of experience you need. Now, relevant to PMP or not, that entirely depends on your operation. Please understand that the project management is more of a PMP is more of a entry level certification. It is not a advanced level certification. So PMI has some requirement. They put it that you must have these requirements. You must fulfill it. We'll get back into that into detail sessions another time. Acha ji. Okay, so getting into the context further, Acha ji. Now, project manager or how the basically projects are managed. Projects, first of all, what are projects? Projects have two characteristics. One characteristic is that projects are temporary in nature. Projects are temporary in nature, which means it must have start date and it must have end date. It can be 20 years project, but as long as it has an end date, it's a project. Your life is an example of project. We have programs. Programs are combinations of projects. They are combination of related projects. Program. Then we have portfolio. Then we have portfolio. Portfolio basically defines the organizational strategy. They defines the how the organizational guys, just give me 1 second. I'll ask this cleaner to clear it. By give me a second. Yeah, it's an interesting day basically. Yeah, it's a holiday and I'm still here. Anyone not having any knowledge about project management can attend. Yeah, we can, Nirmal, we can discuss this thing in detail at the end. 3 years experience you should have 3 years experience, and then you must satisfy the requirements of the project management. We will go back to that in detail in a while. Acha ji. Yeah, so portfolio actually has everything. It has projects in it, it has programs in it, and it has operations in it. Projects, program, and operations are the part of portfolio. That's an important thing to understand, that projects are temporary, programs are temporary, whereas operations are kind of a permanent thing. They don't last. Like maintenance of your car, something that you keep on doing on daily basis, is basically classified as operations. We have a thing that is called as organizational project management framework, which gives you the organizational strategy. Like, what does your organization want? What do I want from this session? Ideally, this session was made for my premium students, for my batch students, so that I can summarize everything that we have studied in the last 5 or 6 days. But then my batch students actually gave me this thing. So it's a this month of December, and it's a month of giving back to the community. So let's make this premium session open to that. So my organizational strategy for this, I would say, brand recognition, that can be said here. It is more of a brand recognition. Like, there are so many people who don't know me, so through this session they can know me, they can learn about the project management, and I can give back to the community. This is a very important thing. Brand recognition. So you have an organizational strategy which drives portfolio, which make decisions on what to do. We make programs and projects, which drives operations. Program and projects, they give value. Value is transferred to the operation. This is basically the entire thing, why and how projects are created. Now, let's get back to the projects. Projects can be anything. It can be a customer requirement, it can be upgradation, it can be anything. Whatever the projects are, the purpose of the project is to increase business value. Your current state is this, and you want to move to the future state. We do projects to change your current state into future state. Current state to future state. Now, current state may be like, let's say you are earning 100, you are earning $10,000, you want to earn $15,000. So that can be your future state. Whatever the future state is, you do projects for that. Like, why do you do PMP? One of the reasons that people do PMP is to get the raise in salary, to get a better job. Why do you want to do PMP? Let's ask from you. Why do you want to do PMP? Let's ask from you. Guys, I will not end the session unless I have answered all your questions. So don't worry that if you have some questions regarding experience and I am seeing some question, I will answer all the questions. Okay, can you bring mic near? Uh, Now this my voice is clear. If now my voice is clear to everyone. Okay, only one person is saying we can't hear you. Any other persons, guys, you can hear? Okay, Amol for career growth to become project manager. Yes, they can hear. So maybe you have some problem in your mic. Yeah. Okay. So guys, the pro the point is basically we want to improve the business value. Okay. Rizwan, this is a quick session in which we summarize the entire thing in 2 hours. So this will be a high level session and a quick session. I'm sorry for that. Uh, this session will be quick because we have to cover the entire material in 2 hours. Okay. Yeah. So now let's see how you set a business value. Business value consists of two things. One is tangible, that can be measured like dollars or something. Intangible, that cannot be measured. Brand recognition, awareness, things like that. I love to give the example of that Apple. Now I am using this Apple Pencil or like let's say iPad, and this iPad is almost let's say $1,500. I can get the same thing maybe in $100 in some other cheap brand, but I went to buy Apple. Why? Brand recognition, business value. For me, the value of that brand was more. For me, the value of that particular thing was more as compared to the money. So that is brand recognition or business value. So let's take the projects from the phase point of view. Every project, first we do the need assessment, like what do you want to do? Is it you want to increase the value? Brand recognition, what do you want to do? Rizwan, I hope that speed is okay to you. We do the need assessment. The first step is need assessment. Then once the need assessment is done, you make business case and you make benefit management plan. Let me explain these two terms. They are very important terms. If I say from the PMP perspective, business case is a document which deals with the money thing. Benefit to cost. It deals with return on investment, payback period, payback period. How I will get my money back. What will be the return on investment? How the money that I invested, I can get it back. Each and everything will be put into the business case, the money thing. And the second thing, the benefit management plan. The benefit management plan talks about intangible things. Your brand recognitions. Why we are doing most of the marketing campaigns, most of the marketing campaigns are for brand recognition, awareness, things like that. So guys, business case and benefit management plan, these two documents are clear to everyone? Please put in the chat box. Good evening, Data. Are these two documents clear to you? If clear, please please confirm me. If both of these things are clear to you, please confirm me. Business case and benefit management plan. They are two important documents that we use in our projects to understand what are the things that are happening in a particular way. Business case and benefit management plan. Okay, uh, guys, both have money. I wouldn't say both have money. Business case is more a money related, whereas benefit management plan is more of a benefits thing. Okay, clear. Okay, yeah. So now once the business case and benefit management plan are approved, once both of these documents are approved, then we go towards the project thing. Both business case and benefit management plan, they are pre-project activity. They are pre-project activity. Okay. Now once they are approved, now the projects get started. Now get the now we get the project and the project gets started. Once they are approved by sponsor or by governance board, now the project actually get started. Now the project actually get, we make the first document of the project as project charter. Project charter is the first document when the project started. I can say that pre-project activities and project activities, then post-project activities. Pre-project activities, these need assessment that we discuss, business case, benefit management plan. Now, project starts with the project charter, then when it ends, then it goes to operation. Project charter is a formal document. It should be a formal document which is approved by sponsor. Mean sponsor signed it. Now, mostly people get confused in the question, who made it? Who? Who made it? Who made the project charter? Depending upon the organization to organization, project manager can be the involved in the team of making the charter, or he may not be involved in the team of making the chart. That depends from organization to organization entirely. Okay, it depends from organization to organization. He may be involved in the making of project manager, or he is selected after the project charter, but in any case he is not called project manager unless the charter gets approved. So in some organization, business analyst can make the project charter or anyone, but sponsor sign it. So once the project charter is approved, we are good to go. The project is started. Project charter have few things that are important. Signed by sponsor, then the project manager name, his authority to apply resources, okay, of the organizations. Then we also looked into that the high level scope, what we want to do, schedule of the project, cost, high level quality, big risk, key stakeholders, key milestones, things like that are in the project charter. Once the project charter is made, along the charter, we make another document that is called as assumption log. Assumption log has all the assumptions that we put into the project. For example, when 900 people registered for this event, so my assumption was that all 900 people may or may not come. All the assumptions must be there. When you registered for this program, when you registered for this free session, your assumption was that I will actually be available to deliver that, right? So all these assumptions are put into the assumption log and it gets updated throughout the project. A very important thing, you cannot update project charter, cannot update. You cannot update business case. You cannot update, you mean project manager, benefit management plan. Is it clear to everyone so far? Is it clear to everyone? Is it project charter same as the agreement or a contract? Depends on the organization, but the PMI term is project charter. It is not the agreement or a contract. What is question is who make the project charter? Project charter is made by, I would say that project charter is made by project sponsor. For the exam point of view, sponsor. Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. We cannot update project charter, business case, or benefit management plan. That's what was the last line I said. Okay, now that is done. Now we actually go to the flow of the project. If you allow me, can I remove? If you are my student, you know I like to get. Now we get into the real business. Now we have already used 30 minutes. I want to use the remaining time. Acha, acha. Let's get a little bit more. Okay, so now the project charter is done. Now assumption log is done. Okay, now comes the important documents. Step number one. Once the project charter is made, approved, we show it to the key stakeholder so that they know their roles and responsibility. So that they know the roles and responsibility. Step one, as soon as the charter gets approved, we show it to the stakeholders. Hey, this is your responsibility, this is your responsibility, etc., etc., etc. Stakeholders know their responsibilities, the key stakeholder. Now the project manager starts identifying all the stakeholders. All the stakeholders. Here, two things play a critical role. The first thing is organizational process assets, which is organization policies, procedures, tools and templates, and lesson learns, the past lesson learned repository. Project manager look in all of these documents to see who are the stakeholders for this project. Plus, we look at the enterprise environmental factors. What are the factors like resource availability, marketplace data, all the enterprise environmental factors that may or may not influence the project. I like to put it as a pastel. Who are the political stakeholder, who are the economical stakeholder, who are the social stakeholder, who are the technological stakeholder, legal stakeholder, environmental stakeholder. Political, economical, social, technical, legal, environmental, both internal and external stakeholder. We identify them. Plus, now this will be the sequence that we'll be using. Project manager goes to the sponsor and ask him, hey, do you think who can be the stakeholders in addition to those things, OPS and EA? He shares some stakeholder and then he goes to the focus group of the key stakeholders mentioned in the project charter. He asks them who else can be the stakeholders. Then he look at the documents like business case, benefit management plan, project charter, etc., etc. He look at all the documents who else can be the stakeholder. Once he has looked all the documents who can be the stakeholders, we get a list of all the stakeholders. List of all the stakeholders. We put all the stakeholders in a document that is called as stakeholder register. Stakeholder register. Now, all the stakeholders are not equal. We need to classify them and prioritize them. So we classify them by saying who are the upward stakeholder, who are the downward stakeholder, internal stakeholder, external stakeholder. We identify all the stakeholders, who are the stakeholders, what are their way, every single thing. This is a very important thing. We identify every single stakeholder in the project, who are the stakeholders, what they want, and each and everything is mentioned about the stakeholders. I hope this is clear. How do we identify the stakeholder? Put in the chat box, how do we identify the stakeholders? Please put in the chat box, how did you identify the stakeholder? Okay, gee, let's see. You identify the stakeholders. Okay, difference 121, not raw, not 100, 121 people. Actually, people are more than 300 at different platforms. Okay, you identify the stakeholders you through first asking the sponsor, then focus group, then doing the facility workshop, and many other medium. Once all stakeholders are there, you put it into the stakeholder register. Does not depend on the nature of the project, Rizwan. It does not depend on the nature of the project. This is a sequence you must follow by looking into OPS, EEF, focus group, all those things. We identify the stakeholders. Once we have identified the stakeholder, now the next thing comes. We classify them internal, external, and all those things. We have classified all the stakeholders. Now we prioritize them. Now there are two, three different ways. One of the best is power interest graph. It can be interest, influence, or other thing, but power interest is the most used. We see who are the high power, high interest stakeholder, low power, high interest, high power, low interest stakeholder, low power, low interest stakeholder. So high power, high interest stakeholders, like it can be product owner, it can be sponsor. We manage them closely. We manage them closely. People having high power, but they are not interested. It can be government or your CEO, depending upon the project to project. We keep them satisfied. MC is managed closely. KS keep them satisfied. Those people who don't have power, but they are more interested, like media, like your competition, keep them informed. Keep them informed. People having low power, low interest, put them into the watch list. But now people do ask the question, like why we should even put them into the watch list. We put them into the watch list because the reason is that anyone's power can change throughout the project. Anyone can become an arsenal. Anyone's interest can change. So we do want to look them or review the watch list after a certain amount of time. So this is power interest graph. There is another 3D model that's a little bit change in power interest graph, that is basically stakeholder cube. Stakeholder cube is basically power, interest, and third can be any parameter. X, I'm putting X, X can be any power, interest, or whatever you want to say. The third parameter to move. It can be attitude, it can be geography, it can be language, it can be culture, custom, etc. etc. The third model we use is salience model. Salience model basically use power, urgency, and legitimacy. Power, urgency, and legitimacy. For the exam, you only need to know this thing. Power, urgency, and legitimacy. So I shared three models with you. What are the three models? Put in the chat box, please. What are the three models of classification? Please put it in the chat box. What are the three models of classification? Please put it in the chat box. Three models of classification. Kitchen staff, yes. Where my team members? We will discuss that team member. Who could be low power, low interest? Kitchen staff. This is very good that you guys are answering each other question. But keep doing that because this will keep the session keep going on because I need to be in the flow. Now now this is a very important thing. You have done this thing. Initiation is completed. Here the initiation get completed. Now I'm going to go to the process group. Each project has 5 process group: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closing. In initiation, three things happen: project charter, we discussed that; assumption log, we discussed that; stakeholder register, which means stakeholders are identified. Once this is done, then we go to the planning phase. In planning, it talks about how to do something. The biggest output of the planning is project management plan, which is a mother or you can say father. It's a combination of all the plan. Once planning is completed or whatever get approved, you start doing execution. In execution, you do it. You actually do it. Monitoring and control, do the variance analysis. What has been done and what was supposed to do. Comparison. Planned versus actual. Planned versus actual. We are doing in monitoring and control. Then closing, we close the project. Okay. So initiation we discuss. Now we'll see how we go to the planning process. So the first thing would be, once the stakeholder register is done, the first thing would be to make stakeholder engagement plan. So people ask, what is the first thing after stakeholder register? We make the stakeholder engagement plan. Stakeholder engagement plan is all about only one thing: strategies, strategies that you require to engage the stakeholders. Strategies, sorry about that. Strategies required to engage the stakeholders are in the stakeholder engagement plan. The tool that we use to identify the strategies is stakeholder engagement matrix. Stakeholder engagement matrix. It has unaware, resistant, neutral, sportive, leading. This is called stakeholder engagement matrix. It checks each stakeholder. Now, please understand, each means those important stakeholders. These are the people in the high power, high interest area. We don't want to work with everyone. Maybe people having high power, low interest can also be there, but only we work here with the important stakeholder. We check what is their current engagement level and what do we desire. What do we desire? What is their current engagement level and what do we desire in the project? Okay, current level of engagement and what do we desire. For example, out of 900 registration I received, it was very shocking for me. 800 people does not know me. 800 plus people does not know me. I am putting so much content, but nobody knows me. That is the reality of the world. How many of you know me before this session? Put in the chat box. That will be also an interesting thing. So they don't know me. What is this? They are my stakeholder, high power, high interest, like they want to do PMP. And I'm a PM, I'm the best PMP trainer. We have 359 PMP as of today, and 20 students have exam in the next week. Okay. So those who don't know me, they put. Those who don't know me, basically, if they don't know me, now they are unaware stakeholders. So I need to know the strategies which I can change to make them engaged, to make them neutral, things like that. Current engagement level into my desired engagement level. Okay, so this is a very important thing: current engagement level and desired engagement level. Okay, current engagement level and desired engagement level. Now, at any stage of the project, the strategies can change. So once the stakeholder engagement plan is made, or any plan is made, we send it for approval. We send it for approval and sponsor approve this plan. Okay, sponsor approve this plan. Then we make communication plan. Communication plan is all about four things. 4 R of communication: right information at right time to right people to have right impact. 4 R of communication: right information at right time to right people to have right impact. What are the 4 R? Put in the chat box. 4 R of communication. Please put it in the chat box. Right information at right time to have the right impact. Please put in the chat box. Right information at right time to right people to have right impact. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Who needs the information? What should be the information? How much information it should be? When we should give the information? Where we should give them that 5W and 1H all needs to be put into the plan. We also need to see cultural diversity. This is very important. The culture of the custom, the political ways how the organization work. We need to understand that those dynamics into that. Technology, which technology can be used for the communication. For example, right now we are talking at StreamYard. So that is a technology. That technology, like StreamYard, actually introduced this thing few weeks back that I can hold webinar into it. So that's a new technology, right? And I used it, and that's an easy technology to use. Which language we can use? So I speak Punjabi, Hindi, Urdu, and English. But the group dynamics or my audience, they understand better the English language. So we are talking in English. Which language to use? All these things are put into your communication management plan. Plus, we put communication model in it, like how the information will be sent from sender to receiver, how the information will be sent from sender to receiver, which medium we are going to use, which medium we are going to use, and how to get feedback, which medium we are going to use and how to get feedback. And if anything disrupt that information and anything disrupt that communication, that is called as noise. It's not just the loudness of the thing. If the internet is a problem, if you don't understand the language, if like there was a vacuum cleaner that I was using vacuum cleaner behind me, that was a noise. All those things are considered noise in the project, noise in the communication. Sender encode the information, receiver decode the information, tries to understand the information. So very important thing, sender, receiver, and all those things. Acha ji. Then we look at the communication type, communication method. Is it a push communication like email sent? Any form of communication that you ask for, did not ask for, like TV ads, they're all push communication. Pull communication. Pull communication is that where you have to do some kind of effort. For example, I put a registration link here. You have to add your name, your username, things like that. So that become pull communication. Now, push pull interactive communication. Interactive communication is two ways communication, which I am trying to communicate here. Which I am trying to communicate. Push pull interactive communication. Okay, so this all these things are put into the communication plan, and oh, communication plan, and we get it approved. We get it approved. The communication plan, we get it approved. Who approves the communication plan? Put in the chat box. Who approves the communication plan? Put in the chat box. Who approves the communication plan? Who approves the communication plan? Sponsor. So he needs to approve your communication plan. Once the plan is approved, once the plan is approved, once the plan is approved, then you go to the next thing. Acha ji, very no. Project manager does not. Who said one will put No, 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 no. Sponsor approve the plan. Project manager is the person who's making a plan here. Hamid, Dinesh, project manager approve the project manager makes the plan. Sponsor approve the plan. Okay, that's why I keep on asking the question. No, Rakesh, not stakeholder. Sponsor, governance board, change control board. They approve the plan. Okay, difference between communication plan and stakeholder plan. Put in the chat box. What do you think? What is the difference between the communication plan and the stakeholder plan? Very important question for exam point of view. What is the difference between the communication plan and stakeholder plan? Put it in the chat box. What is the difference between the communication plan and stakeholder plan? Put it in the chat box. Okay, how to engage stakeholder plan. Okay, one is engagement, other for communication. Communication is for our stakeholder strategies, how to get stakeholder to a desired value. Well done, very well done. Okay, has who? No, 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 Ramjam, no. You need to understand better. Yes, yes, strategies. Yes, Mufid, very well done. Cover stake. This is the best definition I have seen. Okay, Abdul Azim Sami, his communication plan, stakeholder plan is and strategies. Yes, yes. So communication management plan and stakeholder plan, very important for exam. Stakeholder engagement plan talks about the strategies, how to engage with the stakeholder. Communication plan, communication plans talk about when to share the information, how to share the information, how much detailed information should be. All those things are put into the communication management plan. Very, very important thing, guys. I hope you understand this thing. Communication plan and stakeholder plan. Now these, like, stakeholder plan should be made as the first, then the communication plan. Other plans can go parallel, but I will follow my sequence now. I will go with the resource management plan, that is also called as team management plan. Acha ji. So how do we basically do resource in resource management plan? In resource management plan, we will decide who we need. First of all, there are four type of resources. Four type of resources: manpower, material, machinery, and money. We are talking about here only manpower. Okay, sorry, manpower. That's it. We are not discussing anything else. We are only discussing manpower. That's an important thing to understand. Only manpower is being discussed here. Okay. So we check first of all, like, what are the skills that we need? What are the skills we need? Do I need a digital marketer? Like few days back, I put that I need digital marketer, content writer, designer. How much level of the skills I need? Identify what are the type of resources I need, skills you required. Then you look at that. Do you need that virtual, or mean online, remote, or you need physical? You decide that. Do you need virtual? You need physical? Which type of resources you need? Then you make resource calendar that will tell when these resources are required. Okay, when these resources are required, like, uh, one resource I need in January, the other maybe March, things like that. In addition to that, resource calendar will also have all the, like, holidays that you may have. For example, right now we have holidays in UAE, for UAE day celebration. Okay, so you will put that in your resource calendar. In addition to that, we make RACI chart, that is also a part of resource management plan. Who is responsible for something, who is accountable for something, whom to consult, whom to inform. Understand this thing. Project or My question to you, who is actually no. Project manager is dash for project. He is responsible, he is accountable, we have to consult with him, we have to inform him. What will be your answer? What is the role of the project manager? Is he responsible for the project? Is he accountable for the project? Do we have to consult him or do we have to inform him? Who we have to responsible, accountable, consult or inform? G, what is your answer? G, who is responsible, who is accountable, who is consult, who is inform? Who is responsible, who is accountable, whom to consult, whom to inform? Responsible, accountable. So that very important thing to understand about the project. The project manager, the project manager, he is basically, he is basically responsible for the project. Sponsor, he signs the project charter. He is accountable for the project. This is another interesting point to ponder or food for thought. This is an important thing to understand that project manager is responsible, sponsor is accountable. Anup, we also need to inform him, but he is more of a accountable. Of course, we have to inform the project manager. There is no doubt into that. Acha ji. So we made a resource management plan. What type of resources needed, and RACI chart. When we need the resources, again we get the approval for the resource management plan. Now we have made three plans so far: stakeholder, communication, and third resource management plan. Let's go with the risk management plan. The next we will go with the risk. Anyone can come first or second. After the stakeholder is the first plan that should be done immediately because it is linked with the stakeholder register. After that, any plan can be up and down. PM is responsible, Hamza Altaf. He is responsible. Risk management plan. First thing is that we make a risk management plan. Risk management plan defines what is risk. Risk is any positive or negative event which may have impact in the project objective. It can impact scope, schedule, cost, quality, procurement. Anything can be affected by the risk. Scope, schedule, cost, quality, etc., can be affected by the risk. So in risk management plan, we define what is the risk. The it will define the stakeholder exposure for the risk or tolerance for the risk. Is your organization risk averse? Remember, risk is probability into impact. This is the risk, I would say, most important thing to know. Risk is probability into impact. So, is your organization risk averse? Means they run away from the risk, or are they risk seeker? They run towards the risk. They run away from the risk or they run towards the risk. Risk seeker, risk averse, or risk neutral. They handle the risk. They check the positive and the negative of the project and handle it accordingly. Is your organization risk averse, seeker, or neutral? Put in the chat box. Is your organization risk averse, risk seeker, or risk neutral? Put it in the chat box. Then we look at the risk threshold and we set the limit here. Like if the risk of the project it goes about, let's say $10,000, then we will escalate it to the sponsor. If it is below that threshold, we will not escalate the sponsor. We set the limit threshold, how when we are gonna escalate to the senior, and we decide risk tolerance plus minus range 10%, 20% range for the project, and we decide the tolerance into the project. Then the definition of probability and impact is decided here. Like, are we going to use low, medium, high, or we are going to use very low, low, medium, high, very high. Same goes for impact. We also define, will we be using a matrix 3 by 3, 5 by 5 for risk, or 7 by 7? What do I mean by that? So let me just put it there, or we will discuss the qualitative risk. So we decide these things and we get the risk management plan approval. Please note a very important point here. Nowhere I mentioned we identify the risk here. Nowhere I mentioned we identify risk here. That's a very critical point to understand, because risks are not identified in the risk management plan. Risk management plan tells you how to identify the risk. Risk management plan tells you the risk tolerance of the organization and things like that. Risk management plan does not identify any of the actual risk. It's a very, very critical point that we need to understand. Is it clear? Please put in the chat box. Please put in the chat box. Is it clear to everyone? Risk management, risk appetite, Yasin. If you say risk appetite is more of a, yeah, in a quick session, of course, I'm gonna skip few things. Anticipation, in the anticipation, how much risk we can gonna handle it. That is more of a risk appetite for you. Okay, risk management plan, positive. Okay, okay, yeah. We are coming to that path where to put the identified risk. Once the risk management plan is approved, now here is the difference between stakeholder topic and the risk topic. In stakeholder topic, first we identify the stakeholder and put them into the stakeholder register, and then we make the stakeholder engagement plan. Here, first the risk management plan is made, then the risk register is made. Then the risk register is made. Also, do we take approval from sponsor? Of course, all plans, Ali Raza, all plans should be approved by a sponsor. There is no plan, it should not be like that. Any plan should not, like, it is not approved by the sponsor. Every single plan must be approved by the sponsor. Okay, it goes without saying. Acha ji. So now we identify the risk. Now we come to the process that is known as identify risk. Same process that we utilize to identify the stakeholder, we will use to identify the risk. How we are gonna do? Step one will be, we will ask the project sponsor, hey project sponsor, what do you think are high level risks in the project? Then we are gonna ask on the focus group, what can be the potential risk. Then maybe we will ask the expert judgment, other consultant, expert judgment can say, or subject matter expert, what are the other risks that can be in the project. Okay, this is another thing. Then we look at the documents, document analysis. Document analysis can be there, like we can look at the business case, benefit management plan, project charter. Of course, we discuss the assumption log. Assumption log in the start, everything that was in the assumption log is the risk. Then we will look in our OPS, like in the organizational policies, procedures, templates, and most important, past lesson learned registers. What risk this organization has faced in the past that can impact the future. Then we will of course look at the EEF, like PESTEL. We discussed what are the PESTLE, political risk, economical risk, social risk, technological risk, legal risk, environmental risk. All the pastor risk. What are the political risk, economical risk, social risk, technological risk, legal risk, environmental risk, internal and external. Plus, we can also use the SWOT analysis. What are the strengths of the organization? What are the weakness of the organization? What are the opportunities in the organization? Internal. So we get the list of all the risk and we put it into the document that is called as risk register. We put all the risk into the risk register. Get all the risk, put it into the risk register. Okay, these are the risks that can be felt into the organization, so we put it into the risk register. So guys, so far any confusion, put in the chat box. All that, why don't you tell me what is your number one strength? This is an important thing. I always like to give the exercise on. I say if you work on your strength, you can become legendary. If you work on your weaknesses, you can become ordinary. So what is your number one strength? If you know, put in the chat box. Acha ji. Now we have list of all the risk. Here at this stage, we also put who are the potential owners. What do you mean by owners? Owners mean the persons who are going to handle a particular risk. A person who are going to tackle a particular risk is the potential owner of the risk. And the responsibility of the owner is to look at the trigger. What trigger? Trigger means an event, a precursor on an event that occurs before the project, and this event is going to occur. So we look into that. Okay, this event is going to occur. The owner will keep looking it and see into that trigger, and he handled it. And once we put it there, as we have already discussed in the previous topic, not all the stakeholders are same. Similarly, not all the risks are same. We need to prioritize risk. We will prioritize the risk. There are two ways to prioritize the risk: qualitative assessment and quantitative assessment. Qualitative assessment and quantitative assessment. Qualitative assessment basically relates to us, is it high, medium, low. Quantitative assessment give us the exact number, how much risk is there, how much risk we are going to tackle, things like that. This quantitative assessment is optional. This is optional thing. We don't do it in all the project. We do it in some of the project, and we just don't do it in other of the project. It is more of a optional thing in a lot of the project. What do you mean by we? You said who is included in we? But when I say we, it means team, but ultimately the entire responsibility goes to the project manager. The entire responsibility goes to the project manager. So qualitative means looking at each risk, okay, and putting it into probability versus impact matrix. How? Let's say we decided that we are going to use the 5 by 5 matrix, so probability will be very low, low, medium, high, very high. I can say it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Impact is similarly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I make a matrix of risk, probability into impact, probability will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Similarly, impact will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. We make a 5 by 5 matrix. Now, once 5 by 5 matrix is made, we will check each risk and we will look at the risk. What is the probability of that risk? What is the impact? Let's say if the risk is above 16, we may say it is very high. If the risk is 12 to 15, we can say it is high. If it is then medium, low. So in this way, we have ranked the risk: low, medium, high. This is qualitative assessment. The benefit of the qualitative assessment is it is quick, cheap, there is no cost, only you have a workshop and you can get it done. The disadvantage is that human biasing can be there. Any risk that is related to your department or that may affect your project, that may affect you in any kind, you will try to say, okay, now this risk is very high, this is low, because it is impacting you. And the risk that is impacting other persons, that we say it is more of a low or medium, something like that. This is qualitative risk assessment. Okay, guys. So, any confusion so far? How to rank? Who will decide? Project manager. Everything project manager will decide. Okay, everything project manager decide. So everything project manager will decide. Gee, anyone has any other confusion so far? Please, if you have any confusion, do put in the chat. Okay, did not receive any. Stakeholders are involved in ranking. Yes, stakeholders are involved in every single thing. How to assess quantitative risk? OS only ask the question that I explained. Other things that are not I have not explained, they will come. They will come step by step. I'll try to go through every single thing. Yes, stakeholders are involved in identifying the risk. Of course, they are involved in the identifying of risk. Acha ji. Ji, let's go to the note. Every project does not have HSC manager. They don't need it. Project manager decides. Everything is decided by the project manager. But who will decide how much he will decide? Around it goes back to the risk management plan. But as a general rule, project manager will decide everything. Acha ji, now quantitative risk analysis. Quantitative risk analysis. Quantitative risk analysis is expensive. It gives you accurate result. It is expensive, but it gives you accurate results. We need to collect a large amount of data to handle the quantitative risk, but it does give you the accurate results. So it's a very important thing to understand how you are doing the quantitative risk analysis. There are various tools to do quantitative risk analysis. Not all projects need quantitative risk analysis. Most construction projects, most, I'm not talking about Burj Khalifa or big projects, those projects do need quantitative. As a general, like making a house or things like that, they only need qualitative risk assessment, not quantitative is required. So one of the tool is influence diagram. Okay, we in influence diagram, we check what is the influence of each thing. Like, you tell me which activity is more risky here. Put it in the chat box. Which activity is more risky? Which activity is more risky? I can also put a dollar sign on it, but just to get an idea. Which activity is more risky here? Straightforward, F is the most risky activity. So we get simply quantitatively this thing here. Then we use, this is influence diagram. Another tool is sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis or also known as tornado diagram. Sensitivity analysis or also known as tornado diagram. What do? We check how one risk event affect every single thing. How one event every single thing. Let's say if there's a risk a wind will occur, how that wind or how that event will affect every single activity. Maybe it affects some activity positively or some affect activities negatively. If there's a tower crane, it will affect, the wind will affect tower crane very much. But if there is something other concrete, it can damage that more. How this thing will affect on that. Sensitivity analysis is how sensitive you are to that particular event. So one of the things that I like to say is basically, let's say you have 4 or 5 kids. When the winter comes, who gets sick first? Who get sick first? He is more sensitive. That is more of a sensitivity analysis to see you that how one event have different thing into that. Okay, G, sensitivity analysis. Now the next one is expected monetary value. Expected monetary value is simply risk is probability into impact. We multiply by probability with the impact. Let's say there's a positive risk, probability is 25% and impact is $100. Put it in the chat box. What will be the expected monetary value or the what will be the event of the risk? Put in the chat box. JN exam, no one has seen numericals in a long time in the exam, but it can come. You must know them. You simply multiply by probability into its impact and you get the answer. That will be your answer. Who put $125? Hamza, you seriously? Hamza, 25. This becomes 0.25 here. 25% of that. This will be a positive risk event. And similarly, if I say there's a probability of a negative risk, 35%, and impact is $300, what will be the answer? Put in the chat box. What will the answer? Put in the chat box. So negative risk. So whatever the answer comes, we multiply probability with impact, that will be negative. So that is expected monetary value for you. A slight change in expected monetary value is decision tree analysis. Decision tree analysis. It calculates for both risk, the positive and negative, and then helps you to decide. For example, should let's say I'm a business owner, I want to think should I buy a new equipment or should I upgrade my equipment. I will check the positive of that buying and negative plus upgrading positive and negative. Whatever the answers come, I will go towards that. That is called as a decision tree analysis. So we have discussed so far in this the influence diagram, decision tree analysis, expected monetary value, sensitivity analysis. The last is basically simulation or also known as Monte Carlo analysis. In Monte Carlo analysis, what do? We put probability distribution. We get a random numbers and we put a probability distribution S curve. Okay, we get an S curve. S curve shows basically what is the probability of something achieving. Let's say you just started PMP preparation. Today is 4 December. Okay, what is the probability if you give exam today you will pass? Maybe 10% or 20%. What if you give exam on 10th December? I'm supposing that you are studying continuously, so you give exam on 10, maybe 40%. If you on 20, maybe 70%. Especially if you are in my program, on 31st there is 80%, on 15th of January 80%. So we get a probability distribution curve. This is called as simulation by some authors or Monte Carlo analysis. This is used to calculate the probabilities distribution of when a particular event will occur or used to calculate the reserves, how much more reserves we needed. And when we reach 80%, we say that is enough. We don't need more than that. 80% is good for us. Okay. Yeah. So probability distribution is there. We are clear with that. Now we have our, let's say we had 10 risk. Out of 10 risk, 4 were high risk. Now the 4 risk have numbers attached to it. Like some risk are $55, some risk are 2 million, one risk is $100,000, and so on and so on. We get all our risk ranked in our risk register. Now once we have ranked all the risk, now we will see how to do a response for that. All these things are in risk register or risk management plan. Put in the chat box. All these things are in risk register or risk management plan. Risk register, risk register, risk register, risk management plan, risk register. अच्छा जी. Risk register, risk management plan. Okay. Yeah. So let's move forward. Everyone is right. All these things are risk register. Now we plan the response for those risks. There are negative risk and positive risk. Okay, negative risk and positive, and we know risk is probability into impact. The first risk strategy is avoid the risk, means making probability zero or impact zero. I love to give the example of COVID. When the COVID happened, what we started doing it, we want to avoid that risk. That was a negative risk. We did not want to handle that risk. We try to avoid it. No one goes out. You stay at your home, making probability zero or impact zero. Zero multiplied by anything is zero. Now, since for the COVID-19 we could not make them, like if it happens, it happens. We could not make the impact zero. We made the probability as zero. That is avoiding the risk. The reverse of avoiding is exploiting the risk. It's a positive strategy. Please understand, exploit is the most positive words in PMP terminology. So some people do get confused here. Exploit is the most positive word in the PMP terminology. Important thing to understand. You exploit the risk, increase probability and impact. Both of those things are increased. Then once avoided, if you cannot avoid, then we try to mitigate that. Means try to decrease either probability or impact, like decrease one of those things, probability or impact, decrease one of these things. This is called mitigating a particular risk, mitigating a patent risk. Okay, try to decrease the intensity or the impact. Like in the COVID we use SOPs. Reverse of it is enhance. When you cannot exploit, then you try to enhance that thing. You cannot exploit, you try to enhance that thing. Then the third is transfer. You transfer that risk to third party. You transfer that risk to third party. Buying insurance. Please understand, whenever you are transferring the risk, you have to pay them a premium amount. The positive is share. We share that thing with someone. We share that thing with someone. Like I want to buy a plot and there's a, like the price can go up, I share it with someone else. That is sharing. Then there is escalate. That is both. If something goes about our threshold, we escalate it to the management. That is both for positive risk as well as for negative risk. We escalate something to our management. Okay. Then comes acceptance of the risk. Then comes acceptance of the risk. Acceptance. Now please understand one thing, all the risks are identified. If you actually change the plan or do something, you are doing something actively, changing the plan in all these things. When you don't change any plan and you wait for the risk to happen, you are accepting the risk. Acceptance can be two-way. It can be active. It is both for positive and negative. Active acceptance as well as passive acceptance. Active acceptance, we make plans. Okay, we make contingency plans. If this thing happen, I'll do this thing. That's a contingency plan for a particular thing. If this thing happen, I'm gonna do this thing. This is your contingency plan for this. For example, here I am. If the fire occur, they actually have that fire sprinkle system. There's a contingency plan for something. Okay, if that plan fails, we make fallback plan. We make fallback plan, contingency plan as well as fallback plans. Both plans are used to for the identified risk. Both plan are used for identified risk. Okay, contingency plan and fallback plan, both plans are used for the identified risk. Now here what we are doing, we are waiting for the risk to happen. We are waiting for the risk to happen, and once that, how we are waiting for that, we are looking for the trigger. Like once the trigger occur, we will basically implement a response for that. We'll discuss that more in the execution. We will discuss that more in the execution. Passive acceptance is that we don't do anything, we just do a workaround. What do you mean by workaround? If that risk occurred, then you handled it accordingly. Okay, so these were risk management strategies. These were risk management strategies, okay, that we use. Once the risk management plan is updated, risk register is updated, you get approval, and all the plans may be updated because of these things. So any question, put it there. Or all the risk identified? All the risk that we are putting in the risk register are identified risk. Anything, any risk that is identified, any risk that is identified before happening, we again put it back into the risk register. Risk register is basically a continuous document that keep on updating. Okay, I hope Babu that is clear. Why quantitative risk? Because it includes the complex analysis that is not required for every single project. That's why it is optional. Okay. G. So what we have done so far, we are in the planning phase. We made communication plan, stakeholder plan, resource management plan. We made risk management plan and risk register. Okay. Now let's do the quality management plan. Uh, yeah, for now, yes, Jane, you can say all are more of a all passive risks are unidentified because we don't have plan. We have to use management reserves for them. Yes, Kalyan, risk register is a living document. Acha ji, it is good to say that positive risks are all. No, 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 no. This is wrong. This is 100% wrong. A passive risk. Yeah, passive risk. Of course, I misread it. Acha ji, now let's make the quality management plan. Now, we make the quality management plan. For that, two things are very important. We want to know what are the standards that we are going to follow. What are the standards that we are going to follow? Are we following ISO standards, or we are following our organization standards? Like if you are a mechanical engineer, there are ASME standards. If you are electrical engineer, there are IEEE standards, and so many. Put in the chat box what are the different risk that you are gonna different standards that you are using your organization. Rakesh, hold this question for execution. I'll get back to your question, execution and monitoring and control. What are the different standards you use in your organization? So we actually benchmark those standards. We benchmark those standards. Can we use these standards internally or externally? We look at those standards and we use those standards. ICE, IEEE, thank you, Jayaprakash. We use those standards. We benchmark, compare to those standards. Okay, for example, I said that I'm gonna complete this session in 2 hours. It seems like a difficult today, but I said it because I have done this in the past. Okay, so I benchmarked my own standards. Okay, I'm gonna complete it in 2 hours. That's my benchmarks and things like that. We put the standards in the quality management plan. Second thing, the most important thing is the cost of quality. We look at that what cost we are willing to pay for the quality. Cost of conformance, money spent to avoid failures. Cost of non-conformance, money spent because of failure. Conformance can be training, appraisals, non-destructive testing of something. Cost of non-conformance can be destructive testing where the product actually get destroyed, or rework, warranty cost. Okay, cost of quality, cost of conformance, cost of non-conformance. Once this is done, we get approval of the quality management plan from the client, that these are the standards that we are going to follow in our project, that it is discussed with everyone. Okay, these are the standards that we are going to follow, and we work into that. Thank you everyone for putting the standards. Like everyone have a different standards in their organization. You put it in the chat box. In addition to quality management plan, we make quality metrics along the project. Quality metrics basically is your KPI metrics, key performance index metrics, that will look at your key measurement, like how many changes are there in the project, how your scope is going in the project, how your schedule, We will discuss in a while schedule performance index, how your schedule performance is going, how your cost performance index is going, or how many changes are there in the project. That things will be measured by quality metrics. So your quality management plan is approved, you get it approved from the client. Now we have score. Now we have, what are the plans we have made so far? Stakeholder plan, communication plan, resource plan, risk management plan, quality management plan. Okay, let's go to the big gun. Let's go with the look at the scope of the project. Now scope can be the first thing in the project, but since they were uh, not related to that thing, I put it these thing before. Everything is approved by sponsor, Yasin. Everything is approved by sponsor. Okay, now scope management plan, it's a very interesting thing to understand. The first thing here, we are going to decide, are we going to use agile or predictive life cycle? Okay, so first I'm gonna go and consider that we are gonna use agile life cycle. So hold your horses and let me get the chair here. Now we are gonna go and explain the entire agile that you need to understand for PMP. Okay, so uh, first of all, let's talk about four different life cycles. On x-axis, I will put delivery. On y-axis, I will put changes or requirement. Okay. If your delivery is single, one go, entire delivery, you are delivering it one go. This is 1 into x, 1 into x. And your requirements are fixed requirements, and delivery is single. We use predictive life cycle. We use predictive life cycle, like construction projects, etc., etc. But if your delivery is one go, but things can keep on changing. You show the client, it changes. You show the client, and keep changing. And in that case, it will be iterative life cycle. Like you make a prototype. Okay, prototype, iterative life cycle. Now, if your requirements are fixed, but your delivery is in multiple parts, this is basically incremental life cycle, like any seasons or the shows, etc., etc. It's an incremental life cycle. If your requirements are changing and your delivery is in multiple parts, it can be single but mostly multiple part, the life cycle will be agile. So four different life cycle: predictive, iterative, incremental, agile life cycle. Now these life cycles are called as change driven, or also known as adaptive. Change driven or adaptive, I hope that makes sense to you. Change driven and adaptive life cycle. This is, you have predictive, that is plan driven, and then you have adaptive, that is change driven. Two different life cycle. But we also have the combination of it, that is hybrid. Hybrid is basically a combination of any two, predictive or agile. Predictive or agile, like some portion is predictive, the anything else is agile, or the entire thing is predictive, small portion is agile, or you can have the in the predictive, the in between we have agile, like designing and things like that. So four different life cycles for you guys. Predictive is also called as waterfall, traditional, and all those things. They are a different name of this life cycle that you can be called predictive life cycle, etc., etc. It can be called it as this way, predictive. Okay, so I hope this thing is clear to you. The different four life cycles. Okay, acha ji. Now we have established we are gonna use agile lifecycle. We are gonna use agile lifecycle. Okay, let's say we decided we want to use agile lifecycle. Agile has four values. Agile is first of all mindset, how things are, how you handle things. That is agile. It's more of a mindset thing. How we are gonna conclude that it is combination of four values. If you know what are the four values of agile, put in the chat box. If you know what are the four values of agile, put it in the chat box. First value of agile is individual and interaction over processes and tools. What does that mean? That means we value more how individual work as compared to following the sequence of processes and things like that. Individual and interaction over processes and tool. That is one of the value of the agile. The other value is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Like we want to give value to the customer as compared to negotiating on the contract. Yes, contract is important, all those things, but giving value to the client is far more important as comparing to the following the contract. Okay. And working software over comprehensive documentation. This says that whatever works, that is important. We don't want to waste our time on documentation, unless it's of course a compliance project. We don't want to waste our time. We want to work in a more positive way. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Okay. The fourth value is responding to a change over following a plan. Now we have already discussed here that agile is all about change, so that is reflected in the value of the agile, responding to the change over following a plan. So four values of agile: individual interaction over processes and tool, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, working software over comprehensive documentation, responding to a change or following up plans. All four values of agile are extremely critical to understand. If anyone is not clear with these agile values, ask me. This is very important. Acha ji. So Agile also have some principles. There are 12 principles. No need to remember, but understand this thing. We want to have a T-type leader or T-type team. What do you mean by it? I-type mean you are a master of one domain. You are a master of one domain. You have no idea about anything else. Then we have master of all, but he has no in-depth knowledge. Okay, headline reader people. And then we have T-type leader who has basically in-depth knowledge of one topic and multiple knowledge of other topics. So T-type leader, a very important thing for your project management. We want to have a team which is self-organized, which is self-organized, which they select their own work, they are accountable. Okay, we need to complete this thing, we will complete this thing in this particular way. They will select their work themselves. We need to build an environment as a project manager. As a project manager, this is your job responsibility to build an environment, where if mistakes are made, they can be overlooked and you can work between them. The lessons are learned, but that can work into that way. So this is some kind of the, like I would say, the mindset of agile in a best possible way. Okay, then agile have many different types of what methodologies: scrum, kanban, lean, xp, crystal, and so many others. But scrum is kind of a more 80-90% of PMP. Okay, 80-90% is PMP. So let's discuss scrum. Scrum is a project management framework. What happens in scrum? There are three roles: product owner, who is the voice of a customer, responsible for product backlog. Product backlog is a document which has list of all the requirements, that is list of all the user stories that we need to complete. Every single thing is in the product backlog. Then we have Scrum Master, who is servant leader, in the project. There are basically 6 leadership styles, but servant leader is considered as the most important leadership style. Like less is fire is a leadership style where you let the team to do. Then charismatic is more of a one-man show. Transactional is give and take. But servant leader is someone who basically facilitate the team, who work with the team. He's helping the team to grow. Then we have team who's self-organized. They know how to complete something and things like that. They select their work themselves. Okay, so how does basically Scrum works? uh, Product owner goes to the stakeholders, collect their requirements, and requirements are called as stories user stories, which you mean how, like user story is, as a user I want this thing so that this can happen. So you put everything in the user story. User story is the requirements of the customers. For example, as a user, you want to attend this session so that you can prepare for PMP. As a user, you want to attend this session so that you can prepare PMP. Hamza, I guess you haven't taken the training as Navna, so just follow the flow. There are so many things that comes into the project management. Okay, there are so many things that comes to the project management when we go into the depth. It's a concise PMP session. Acha, so uh, what was in the user story, as a user I want this thing so that this thing can happen. Okay, for example, as a user you want to attend this session so that you can understand the entire project, you can get the requirement. So product owner, who is the voice of a customer, he is not the sponsor, he is a voice of customer. You can say he's more a business analyst. Scrum master is project manager with less authority. Hamza, to answer your question. Acha ji, product owner collect all the user stories. User stories are mostly written in the on sticky notes because Agile is more of a lightweight estimation. Each user stories must follow this acronym. They must be independent, negotiable, they must provide value, you must be able to estimate them, they must be small, and it must be testable. Independent, negotiable, valuable, estimatable, small, and you must be able to test them. Acronym of your, like this, every user story must follow. We write down on the card like sticky notes, and on the back side we write the conversation as a user I want to do and confirmation criteria on this thing. So product owner basically get all the user stories from the customers and put in a document that is called as a product backlog. It is a list of all the requirements, and all the requirements in Agile are called as user stories. Product backlog is there. Now he goes back to the sponsors and asks them to prioritize, or the stakeholders, whoever is the person. He asks them prioritize. They can prioritize using Moscow technique. Like what are the must requirement, first priority, should requirement, second priority, could requirement, third priority, would likely to have fourth priority. What are the must requirement, should requirement, could requirement, would likely to have requirement? Those are Moscow techniques. Must requirement, should requirement, could requirement, would likely to have requirement. Now we are prioritizing on the basis of value. It's like that. You have $100. You are prioritizing which thing cause is the most important thing, which is maybe less important, which is even less important, and so on and so on. We can use Moscow technique or any other technique, but this is the most used technique. Now we have a product backlog that is prioritized by value, that money, which is the most important user story for you. Then I should answer Agile question as Scrum Master mindset. Okay, Jen, we'll come to that questions. How to answer the question answers, we'll discuss at the end of the session once we go through the every single thing. Okay, so product backlog is ready now. Now understand this thing. In Agile, we have 5 events. Sprint is a 1 to 4 week event, which normally is 2 week event. All the planning, all the work in the project happen in sprint, which can be called as iteration. In order to understand, if you are new to Agile, what is sprint or what is iteration, it's a 2 week duration in which we do the work. We we have taken the entire 1 year, we have divided into two weeks, and we are working into that 2 weeks work. Okay, so sprint is a 2 week thing in which we start the work into that. The first thing we do in sprint is sprint planning, like what is gonna happen in this particular sprint. Normal length of a sprint is 2 weeks, so we do what is gonna do in this particular sprint. We are gonna do in this pattern sprint. Okay, so we take the product backlog, all the user stories are there. We make sprint backlog, like what we are going to do in this particular sprint. Guys, is this making sense to you? What we are gonna do in the entire thing for this way. Okay, what we are gonna do in this entire project. Okay, so product backlog, and we get sprint backlog here. Sprint backlog is basically what we are gonna do in this particular sprint. In this particular sprint, what we are gonna do in this particular sprint. Acha ji, how do you select that? We'll come to that. First, let's say all the user stories are there by high value, and the team has decided checked all user story as put high risk. Now, in order to get, in order to make this sprint backlog, in order to make the sprint, what we are gonna do, we need to check the velocity of the sprint. Yes, velocity means what you are gonna do in one sprint. Okay, does the development team is the scrum team? Can we don't confuse it? The development team makes the sprint backlog. Velocity is how much work you are gonna do in a particular sprint. How much work you are gonna do in this particular sprint is your velocity, or how many story points you are gonna do. What is story point? Now that's a different thing. Story point is the effort required to complete each user story. Effort required to complete each user story is basically your story point. Effort required to complete a user story is story point, and number of story point you do in one sprint is your velocity. I hope that makes sense. Put yes or no in the chat box. How do we calculate story points? There are 3 techniques that we, guys, put yes or no if that makes sense to you. Okay, how do we calculate story points? We have 3 techniques. Ideal odds. Ideal odds, basically we exactly calculate how many hours it will take to complete user story, but since it is ideal, so most of the time it will get wrong, so I don't recommend this thing. Affinity estimation. Affinity is basically categorizing it. It's a small user story, it's a medium user story, it's a large, it's a excel, and so and so and so on. And then the third is Fibonacci series. Fibonacci series is basically made on the mathematical series that as the things become hard, they become more and more complex. This is the most accurate. We use the Fibonacci points for user stories. Okay, we use those points for the user stories, that these points will be utilized for the user stories. Okay, now please understand that thing. Every team, Agile is more of a knowledge work, invisible work. Like it's not a construction work. You can see one layer is done, 2 layer is done. It is coding is being done. It cannot be seen. So team estimate the work, and only team knows what does this user story or what does this story point mean. So we build a consensus among the team using planning poker. The team sit in a circle, and Scrum Master explain the user story, and we try to reach a consensus on that, on the story points on that. That is a planning poker or Delphi technique. Delphi technique is project Scrum Master goes to every team member and ask each one, what do you think, what the story point should be, and he anonymously try to reach consensus. Okay, anonymously he tried to reach consensus among the team member. That is wide band Delphi. So now we have our story points. Okay, we had the product backlog which had everything. Now we had the story points on them, how much story points will be there. So we make our sprint backlog. This sprint backlog is shared with the customer, with the sponsor. Hey, we are going to complete these many user stories with the client. Okay, so now after this your sprint actually starts once the sprint goal is shared. Now please understand this thing: before start working on any user story, you make a checklist that is known as definition of ready, that I am ready to work on this particular user story. For example, before starting this session, I make sure everyone reached email. But many people were getting email in the spam folder, so I make this session as a public session, so that even if you were unable to get the email, still you can join the session and still you can learn from this particular session. So that again become an important thing. I decided on this and we worked into that. Okay, so that is definition of ready. Then I checked, am I ready to work on this? I checked all my things. Like interestingly, just before 2 minutes, I checked my water bottle was empty. Now I wanted last 2 minutes I ran into the kitchen. I'm in the office, so and get my water bottle filled. So that was definition of ready. Definition of done. Definition of done is another checklist that both are with the team. The team check whether the user story is completed or not before showing it to the client. Before showing it to the client, the team check everything is completed, then you show it to the client. We'll come to that. Definition of done. Okay, definition of ready and done is clear. Put in the chat box, yes, it is clear or not. Put in the chat box. Then every day at the same location, we in Agile we want to have co-location. At same location, we have daily stand-up, which is 15-minute meeting, and we share three things, only three things, nothing else. What you did yesterday, what you are going to do today, is there any impediment or roadblock? That's it. What you did yesterday, every team member gets a turn. He explained what he did yesterday, what he's going to do today, and is there any roadblocks or improvement in the process. 15 minutes, same place, same location, we answer the question. We use information radiator in this meeting to basically show the progress. Information radiator can be task board, to do, in progress, completed. It can be task board, or we can use a Kanban board. Kanban board is basically a little bit change in the task board with work in progress limit. Like how much work you can do at one thing. It is used to identify the bottleneck in the process. It is a task board which is used to show the progress, but Kanban board is a little bit having a work in progress limit, a bottleneck. It works on a pull based system, one by one, one by one, one by one. You can use task board or Kanban board in your project. Or we can also have burn up or burn down chart in the project. Burn down chart shows how much work is remaining. How much work is remaining. Burn down chart. It is graphical representation and graphical analysis. At any time you can check, are you behind the schedule or are you ahead of the schedule. Burn up chart shows how much work is done. How much work is done. Burn up chart and burn down chart for you, ladies and gentlemen. All those information radiators are discussed in the team in the daily stand-up. Anyone can come and look at. That's why we are calling them information radiator, that anyone can come and look at those things. Okay, then once the sprint is over, when the sprint gets over, then the clients come in sprint review, in sprint review, we show the client only those user stories which are 100% completed. Every user story that is 100% completed goes into client check it according to their acceptance criteria. Now here comes another kind of checklist, acceptance criteria. Okay, client has this checklist which is acceptance criteria. Client check the checklist whether the things are completed in it or not, whether the work has been completed or not. If the client says okay, the work is completed according to that acceptance criteria, good, the user story is accepted. If the it is not completed according to the accepted criteria, it goes back. Okay, so if anything is completed, it goes into product increment. If it is rejected, it goes back into the product backlog. Okay, client check the user story, it is accepted, it goes into product increment, rejected goes to product backlog. Here the client can also add new user stories. Okay, and once the incomplete user stories or rejected stories get back to the product backlog, or you add new user stories, we reprioritize the product backlog. And this is also called as grooming of the this is also called as grooming of product backlog. What is grooming of product backlog? Put in the chat box, guys. What is grooming of product backlog? Put it in the chat box. What is the grooming of the product backlog? Is put in the chat box, please. What is the grooming of product backlog? Okay, new user stories are added. Now sprint review is end. At the last, we have sprint retrospective. In sprint retrospective, it's a lesson learned meeting. It's a lesson learned meeting. What happened there? It's a 5-stage. Set the stage, gather data, generate insight, decide what to do, and close the retrospective. So 5 stages. The purpose is to generate insight, look at our work, and see how we can improve. That is the purpose of retrospective. What is the purpose of retrospective? Put in the chat box. To identify what we did good, bad, and how we can improve in the next sprint. Okay. If I summarize the entire Scrum is in this way. Product backlog is made by product owner. It get reprioritized. Then in sprint planning, sprint backlog is made. Team checks the user stories. If they are ready, that is called definition of ready. They check the checklist. Then we have daily stand up, 15 minutes, three questions: what we did yesterday, what we are going to do today, any roadblock or impediment. We have task board, Kanban board, burn up chart, burn down chart, and the that we discussed. In sprint review, the team only shows those user stories which are completed according to definition of done. The client check the acceptance criteria if that is completed or not. Okay, all the rejected user stories goes to the product backlog. Accepted user stories goes into the product increment. Plus we can add more user stories here in the product backlog, get reprioritized, and then happens sprint retrospective. Sprint retrospective. At the end of each project, at the end of each sprint, we basically do sprint retrospective. Some people get confused about this thing. It happens or it does not happen. So this is a very important thing to understand that. Yeah, that it happens that after every sprint. This is the entire Scrum for you. Excuse form. I hope that makes sense to you and that is clear to you. Okay, for new people, I respect that. It is where do we do sprint? Same. It happens at the start of the project, sprint planning, and backlog refinement happen in the sprint review. Okay, at the end. I understand for the new people it is so much, but it is a concise entire PMP in 2 hours. Uh, for those people who are just starting their journey, one by one, and you will go to depth of the topics, you will get understand onto that each and everything. If something is confusing, yeah. Acha ji. Now, other methodology of Agile in XP, you only need to understand four things. One, pair programming. Two persons are working together and they are doing coding. Working together and they are doing coding or pair programming, and as they are working, they continuously integrate their work with the previous work. They continuously integrate their work with the previous work. Test driven development, like first you write down the test and then you start doing the development. That is happening in the extreme programming. And fourth thing is refactoring. Once you see, when the test you start writing, first test fail, we called it red. Then test get green, mean it passes. Then you refactor it, mean you do housekeeping. Only four things to know in the pair program, nothing more, nothing less. Only four things to know. Then lean is all about removal of waste. Okay, how you can minimize the waste. How you can minimize the waste. For example, if I say I go to uh, KFC to have dinner, I went to KFC, I drive to the KFC, then I reach there, I waited to give my order, somebody take my order, then again I waited to receive my order, then I ate order, and then I left. These are all non-value added tasks. The goal of the lean is to minimize the non-value added task. Okay. For that, it uses lead time. Lead time is the time, total time. Okay. Is the total time when you went to the KFC and when you got it there. Okay. Whereas cycle time is when actually you gave your order and someone started working on it. So cycle time and lead time is used in lean, and they are used to basically minimize the waste. Cycle time, lead time. I guess that is enough for the agile. You don't need to know anything else for agile. These concepts are enough. G, if you have any question in agile, please ask. If you have any question in agile, please ask. Epics is a basically a large user story. It's a large user story that we use. If that cannot be handled in one sprint, we divide that uh, user story. Um, Feature charts, when you develop by feature, then it is a feature driven development, and we use to show instead of user stories, when we use feature to shows, that becomes feature charts. Those are not important. These are not important thing for the PMP perspective. I did explain that definition of done is the checklist that you have, and the acceptance criteria is the checklist that the client have. Okay, the acceptance criteria is that the client have that checklist. It can be same, but normally that client have the user story. So all the important things have been explained. There can be other things like crystal, etc., etc. So we can always visit those things. I'll and we'll get back to the remaining question in at the end of the class. Let's just okay, how which question was selected? Improvise. Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll get back. Is it possible to have a difference between Amul? It's not important for the PMP. Na? There are thousands of things that we can discuss, but we need to again we need to do Moscow in this training. We need to do those Moscow only the must-have things. Okay, so all the things that you are asking, I can answer it at the end, but these are not must-have things. So let's discuss on that. So now let's say this was agile. Now let's go to predictive. In predictive, what happened? First of all, we were in the scope topic. First, we make requirement management plan. The requirement management plan tells how how to collect the requirement, how to manage the requirement. Okay, so requirement management plan gets all the product requirements. We use like just like we use how did we identify the risk and stakeholders? Put in the chat box. We went to the sponsor. We will ask him what are the requirements, important requirements. We will go to the stakeholders. We will ask them what are the important requirements. We will have a focus group. We can analyze the documents. All those things will be analyzed. We can make a context diagram. What are the things that are interacting with our process? Once we collect all the requirement, we will put this requirement into the requirement documentations, which will categorize all the requirement as functional requirement, non-functional requirement, quality requirement, solution requirement, etc., etc. Plus, we will make requirement traceability matrix that will link the requirement from start till end. It will link the requirement from start till end. We will get a requirement traceability matrix. Once we have collected all the requirements, then we will use again Moscow or product description to separate the product requirement and project requirement. To separate the project requirement as well as product requirement. We will separate them, and once we filter out, we will get project scope statement. Let's say all the requirements here, we will put the Moscow filter, we will get only project requirement. So these project requirements are put in a document that is called project scope statement. Project scope statement and scope management plan will tell you how to basically filter out the requirement from the requirement management plan to the project scope statement. Now, guys, is it clear how we make the project scope statement? If yes, put in the chat box. We have project scope statement. It is a detailed requirement in the project. What is included, what is excluded, what is in the project, what is not in the project. Every single thing will be in the project scope statement. And now we will make work breakdown structure. We will break down the work and we will get the work breakdown structure. Okay, this is called as WBS. If I say 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.1.1.2.1, 1.2.2, 1.2.3. This is the entire work breakdown structure. We took the work, we divided into work breakdown structure. These numbers, they are called as code of account. This structure is called WBS, and then we make a dictionary which will explain these things, which is called as WBS dictionary. WBS dictionary. So we will have WBS dictionary. This project scope statement plus WBS dictionary, it goes to the client or sponsor for approval. Can anyone tell me in the chat box once it is approved what it is called? What do we call it? Yeah, Ram, thank you. We get here scope baseline. Now, the scope is ironclad. Scope cannot be changed. We will discuss in a while. If you want to change the scope, you have to go to a change management procedure. But as a general, scope is fixed. We cannot change the scope. Okay. Now the scope is fixed. Once we get the scope, now we go to the schedule. We made a schedule management plan that will tell how we are gonna work into that. The smallest part is called as a work package. In schedule, we'll take this work package and we will further decompose it into activity list, activity attributes, and we will get the milestone list. Okay, activity list means activity A, B, C, D, etc. Attributes will be explaining those activities. Just like WBS had WBS dictionary, activities will have activity attributes. So these will be explaining all those activities, attributes, and those activity will have dependencies. There is mandatory dependencies and there is discretionary. Mandatory is kind of a fix. It can be internal, it can be external. Discretional can also be internal or external. Discretionary is more of a preferred practices, soft logic. What do you want to do? Mandatory is fixed. It has to be done anyway. For example, in the previous sessions that I did last year, in which I summarized the PMP, I did not use process groups to explain. Today I'm using process groups to explain. It's a different thing. This is discretionary dependencies. Okay, so in addition to that, we have relationships in the, like, all activities are related to each others. How they are basically related to each other? We have four type of relationship. Finish to start, activity A can be related to B in a finish to start to start, both start at the same time, finish to finish, both end at the same time, or oh, start to finish. In order for activity B to finish, A has to start. So four type the relationship we have among the activities. Okay. Then we also have leads and lag. Lead is basically some activity that was supposed to start later on, it started before, which decreases the schedule. Lag is as the name suggests, activity get delayed. Lead and lag, they are kind of a important thing for your project. Guys, is that making sense to you or not? Because these are in a sequence, so I'm explaining it in that way. Please put in the chat box, are you with me or not? Is it clear or not? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Now we will look at each activity and we will check its duration. There are 3 to 4 techniques to calculate the duration. The first is analogous. This is also called as top down. If something has done in the past and you are going to do the same thing now, so that is basically analogous estimation, same estimation. For example, I estimated, I have done this thing, like I did it last time in January. I can complete the entire PMP in 2 hours, which of course I couldn't do it. So that was same thing. Okay, analogous estimation. Parametric estimation. Parametric estimation is you have done something, now you will do the multiple of that. Statistical relationship, bigger or smaller. Still use a past history. Analogous is 100% same. Parametric is a little bit change. Okay. Then we have 3-point estimation. Instead of using 1 point, we use optimistic, we use pessimistic, and most likely. And the formula is basically optimistic plus pessimistic plus most likely by 3. This is triangular distribution or beta distribution. Now, I haven't seen anyone getting the question in the exam for this thing, but it is always good to know. Okay, optimistic plus 4 most likely plus pessimistic is 3-point estimation, beta distribution, and the most accurate one is bottom up estimation. You basically add from the bottom. You add from the bottom. So guys, which one is the least accurate and which one is the most accurate? Put in the chat box. Which one is the least accurate or which one is the most accurate? Please put it in the chat box. Vikas, which question you are asking? I guess you are in the previous thing. So ask in the later end. We are very ahead. Bottom up is the most accurate. Very well done, guys. Very well done. Bottom up is the most accurate. Analogous is the least accurate. Now we had, what are the things we had? We had the activity relationship. We have the activity duration. We have activity relationship. Now we will make critical path of these activities. We will make critical path of these activities. Okay, we will use precedence diagramming method. Activity A, activity B, activity C, activity D, activity E, activity F. We will calculate the duration. Let's say 8, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1. Whichever is the longest path, that becomes the your critical path. And your critical path is basically your schedule baseline. Your critical path is your schedule baseline. We get the second baseline here. Okay, sequence or a flow is important. As I'm thinking to write, yes, longest part is the critical path. I'm thinking to write a book on undervalue, like two booklet, like I did for 7 steps of formula. If you haven't received my 7 step of formula, email me. I'll send you the free copy of that. So I'm thinking to write a book on a critical path as well as on undervalue. What do you think? Should I write it or not? So critical path, I haven't received any question in the exam for last 2.5 years, but still, if you get it, just add the duration, you will get the critical path. That is the longest path in the project. That is your schedule baseline. As long as we get our schedule baseline, we already have our scope. Now we will get a schedule. How now third baseline? Very easy thing. Same way as we calculated the duration using analogous, we make cost management plan. Okay, in cost management plan we will look at what, like how we are gonna do financing for the project. Okay, how, like what is the funding limit reconciliation, when the money will come, when the money will be there. Now just want to add one more time, this is one critical path is not important for exam. We'll make funding limits in the project, financing, how the financing is going to happen in the project. Once that is done, what will be the tolerances in the project, when you will escalate to the governance board. We will calculate the cost of each activity using same analogous bottom up 3 point estimations, and we'll get our cost baseline. So guys, which plans we have done so far, put it in the chat box. Which plan we have done so far. In the chat box, which plan we have done so far. We have done stakeholder plan, communication plan, risk, quality, scope, schedule, cost. Which plan is left? I guess there's one plan left. At least I know. What do you think? Which plan is left? Which plan is left? Mufid, quality is done. Which plan is left? Risk requirement is done. Scope is done. Which plan is left? Yes, Rao. You are on bingo. So the last thing in the procurement that I was waiting after that is procurement. Now, in procurement is the most flawed thing. Cost is done. Amul, we made a cost management plan. Here the cost is there, yeah. Cost cost baseline is there. Oh, I did not say this. So cost is there. We already did the cost, now. Cost is done. So yeah. So procurement. First we make or buy decision. Do we want to make ourselves or do we want to buy it from the outside? Okay. Do we want to make it or do we want to buy it from outside? Okay, let's say we want to buy, then the procurement story will start. If we want to make it, then the procurement story will not start. Then we will go to scope baseline. Now we want to buy something. Okay. So we will make our source selection criteria. The source selection criteria is made. Okay, it can be like someone is cheap, someone is better, someone is quality. For example, if someone wants to attend my training, the program is starting on 16th of December. So we will be discussing quality is important. We will be maybe I'm ATP or I'm the best in the world, my success record, whatever it is. Your source selection criteria will define that thing, how we are going to work into that. Your source selection criteria. We are selecting the source because of this thing. Okay, then is your scope fixed? If your scope is fixed, we will use fixed price contract. If your scope is fixed, we will use fixed price contract. The entire price is fixed with them, and we have to work into that. Fixed price contract will be used in that. Okay. Now, because the risk will be on more on seller as compared to buyer. If we want to give them an incentive, like after the fixed price contract, we want them to complete earlier in the fixed price, we will give fixed price incentive fee. We will give them a little bit incentive. Hey, here's an incentive to complete that thing. So that becomes a fixed price incentive fee contract. Okay. And if the contract is long, multi-year contract, the economic can have impact. We have fixed price economic price adjustment. Fixed price economic price adjustment will be there. Okay, fixed price economic price adjustment. If your scope is not fixed, we will have cost reimbursement. And we have three types: cost plus fixed fee. Like, you will pay him for the cost of the replacement of the part plus the fee that he is gonna charge. You will pay him that cost plus fixed fee. Let's say you want him to complete something early. So what do? You will pay him the fixed fee plus the replacement plus incentive fee. The third type contract is here: time and time and material contract. Okay, time and material contract. No, sorry. My mistake. Cost plus award fee. Sorry. Cost plus award fee. You want him to complete your work earlier, so you gave him an award if he did the good work. Okay. The biggest difference between incentive fee and award fee is that incentive fee is basically agreed to them, and if he does not do, if he does, and uh, you have to pay him. This is incentive fee. Whereas award fee is like a tip. It's a bonus. You like something, you pay him. For example, I like 2 hours before the session, I received a food. I ordered it. So, and the guy delivered it late. Although I said okay, I gave him 1 dirham tip. Normally, I gave 3 dirham tip. This is my thing. How much I gave them, because it's not agreed. Even if I don't give it, okay. Even if I don't give it, I'm not accountable to anyone. No one can ask me. It's not contractually bound, but I have to pay the delivery charges, or if I want to expedite the delivery, pay them more. That is incentive fee. Okay. Amazon have expedite delivery. That is more of an incentive fee. It's not an award fee. My water is over. I need to fill it. Acha ji. Now we have make or buy decision. We have source selection criteria. We have our contract. We will write procurement statement of work. In detail, what do we really want in the project? What do we really want in the project? And we will advertise it. We will put it in the market. The procurements. Your procurement statement of the work is your Bible right now. Everything in the procurement statement of work is the most important thing right now. You will also make procurement management plan that will talk about how you can handle the conflicts among the team member, the list of the qualified vendors, the procurement strategies, and things like that. Once the procurement plan is approved, once the procurement plan is done, we go towards the approval of procurement management plan. Now we have the entire project management plan at our hand. The entire project management plan, we will go to the contractor, we will go to the client, we will go there. So we will go there that we will go there and we'll get it approved. Who will approve it? Who will approve it? Put in the chat box. Who will approve it? Put in the chat box. Sponsor, change control. Bidding documents later. The bidding documents can be prepared here. Yasin, bidding documents can be prepared here. Now your planning is completed. Now, if you are in the predictive, process. After this thing, your kickoff meeting will happen. You will explain each and everyone what is their responsibility, etc., etc. Now we come to the most important process group, that is execution. Guys, thank you first of all to stay for staying with me so long. I understand that it has been a long way, but you are still with me. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, this is really appreciable. So yeah, now few things left for a very important thing: how to manage team and how to do those things. So just stay with me. I guess in 15 to 20 minutes we will be able to complete. Thank you very much for everyone for staying with me. Execution happen. Okay, to start project management plan implementation, start the implementation of project management plan. Okay, now while the work is being done, while the work is being done, the quality team will make sure they will ensure the quality assurance while the deliverables are in process. While the deliverables are in process, quality team will go there and check that they meet the quality requirements or not. I will cover the quality tools in control quality, but they will for here they will do the audit of the process. They will do the audit of the process. Okay, they will do the audit of the process, check whether the quality process is being followed, quality management plan is being followed or not. They will use checklist to make sure we are following all the steps, all the sequences. So they will do the quality. Plus we will implement stakeholder plan to make sure the current and desired engagement is according to our requirement. We will make sure that. And through managed communication, which I called as a post office of the project, we will make sure each information is given to the person at the right time with the details that is required. Not more, not less. Not more, not less. Okay. And in procurement, we will basically send all the bidding document to everyone. Then the bidders will come, and we will have a bidder conference in which we will explain the entire requirements, what is needed from every single thing, what our requirement. We will answer all their questions in the bidder conference. Once we have answered all the questions regarding the bidder conference, then they will give us their contract, they will give the agreement or the proposals, and now the negotiation will start happening. In the negotiation, project manager is responsible for quality, scope, schedule, risk. But the cost thing, procurement manager will look for the cost thing. Okay, the procurement manager will look for the cost thing, how much something is gonna cost. That negotiation thing, money thing, in order to avoid bribe, procurement manager will look for the cost of that thing. It's a very important thing. So you will start negotiation. Once the negotiation are reaching at a positive extent, once the negotiation is getting better, we negotiate the price. Once the contract is written, first we will get letter of intent, like okay, they are starting to working. It's more of a initial agreement. Finally, once the management approve the agreement, everyone agree, we get agreement. Please understand this thing. Before getting the agreement signed, whatever was happening, we were doing according to the procurement statement of work. Now, everything that is going to happen will happen according to the agreement. This is a very important thing and a different difference in there. So, agreement is a very important thing. We will write down the agreements with them and we will work with them. So, while we are managing this thing, the risk owners, they are looking at the triggers of the risk, and if a trigger comes there, they implement the risk response plan. They implement the what is agreed in the risk response plan. What will happen when they implement the risk response plan? I'll come to that in monitoring and control. In execution, they're implementing the risk response plan. Okay, so we are managing the stakeholder expectations, we are engaging the quality, conducting procurement, implement the risk response plan. Now we go to the resource topic, the most important thing here. Now the resource are here. Step number one, as a project manager, you will set ground rules with them. Initially, you will set a ground rules. Then the team can later on set their own ground rules. And you will make team charter. Team charter is a working document that should be made by the team, but initially project manager make how they are gonna conduct the work, how they are gonna conduct the business, how the things is going to happen. We are gonna acquire the team, we are going to develop them, we are going to look at their train, we do training need assessment, what are the requirements for the training of the team, we will do the training need assessment for the individual team members and for the overall. At the start of the project we do the individual training need of each team member, then we do for the entire team. Okay, then we do it for the entire team. It's a very important thing. Throughout the project we will keep doing that thing. You see, as since the team members are there, it is possible that the conflict can occur among the team members. Very important thing. It can occur between the virtual team members, between the physical team member. Conflict can occur among both of the team members. Whomever the conflict occur, no, team charter is not made in the planning phase. Team charter is for the team, and the team comes in the execution phase. Yes, Insa. So now conflict can come in the project. The step number one for the project manager is to identify the conflict. Identify the conflict. Look at what are the possible solutions. List down the solution, implement one, and if that does not work, then change the solution and keep changing the solution and keep changing the solution. This is a very important thing. Keep changing the things into that, keep changing, keep working into that. This is one of the way. Plus he needs to look at the at what level the conflict is. If the conflict is at level 1, that is called problem to solve, he does not get involved in it. He let the team to solve the conflict by themselves. If the conflict leads to disagreement, he get involved in the conflict and help to try to get the win-win situation. The conflict is not handled properly, it goes to the contest. Here we are trying to win from each other, and then it goes to crusade and world war. Problem to solve, problem to solve, disagreement, contest, crusade, world war. Level 5, the highest level of conflict. Project manager need to de-escalate the conflict. He need to use diplomacy. He need to separate the team member. He need to try to see the win-win situation. How we can show them the positive stance that this is important for the project and work into that way. This is a very important thing. Identify the at which level the conflict is, and then according to that, use a conflict management strategy. Concerns for others. Here you care more for others. Here you care more for yourself. When you care more for others as well as for yourself, you go for win-win situation, which is problem solving, collaboration, working together. If you care more for yourself, you go for win-lose, forcing, directing, things like that. Okay, forcing, directing, things like that. If you care more for them, you go for lose win situation, like more of a accommodating them or smoothing. Say okay, we will discuss the point of conflict later on, let's now discuss the point of agreement. Or lose situation. Lose situation is avoid or withdraw. Like you run away from the conflict. You don't want to handle the conflict at all. You don't want to handle it. You run away from it. Avoid or withdraw. Then we also have compromise in it. We also have compromise in the conflict, like both parties give up something. Both parties give up something in compromise. As a project manager, your goal should be to move from here to here. We want to get to the win-win situation, but all the techniques are used depending upon where you are, how we are gonna need them. Every single technique is used in the project. It's not that one technique is not used or other technique is used, etc, etc. We need to look into that. Every single technique is used in the project. Acha ji. Now, when the project manager is handling the conflict, he needs to use emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is understanding the emotions of yourself, first understanding yourself, then managing yourself, then using the social skills and empathy to see how other do, and then finally looking at what motivation other people have. For example, right now there are 100 people they are watching. Let me look at the exact number. Yeah, so those people whose motivation level is high, who want to learn more about PMP, they are still here. It's 2.5 hours the session. Those people whose motivation level is low, they have left the session. We have this thing, we have that thing, etc., etc. All the excuses in the book. Their motivation is less. So, as a project manager, using emotional intelligence, you need to identify the motivation of them. There are different motivational theories like theory X, theory Y. Theory X says that people are not motivated. You need to continuously monitor them to make sure that they actually work. Theory Y says that people are motivated, give them an environment, they will work in the best possible way. Then we have Macklin's theory, which says that people are either motivated by power, achievement, or affiliation. Put in the chat box what are you motivated by? Power, achievement, or affiliation? What are you motivated by? Power, achievement, or affiliation? Then we have expectance theory. Like, for example, you guys believe that this session is important to you, this can help you clear the PMP in a minimum time. So you are still here, na? That is expectancy theory. Those people who Elon Musk is doing a Twitter theory, actually, yeah, good one, Prashant. I'll not get into that, but like you believe that is expectance theory. Expectance theory. Then we have Maslow hierarchy of need that says that unless our basic needs are not satisfied, we will not even look for the higher needs. We need our basic needs to be fulfilled, then we will look for the other needs. Okay? Once our basic needs are fulfilled, then we will look for the other needs. We will go for the other needs. Herzberg theory of motivation, that is hygiene agent and motivating agent. It is correlated with the Maslow theory. He basically says that there are some basic things that are hygiene's agent, minimum salary, working condition, and things like that that must be present. If they are not present, we will get demotivated. But no matter how much you present them, we will not get motivated them. Okay, for example, my water is now empty. When the water was there, so I was not motivated because of water, but now water is there. If I get a throat, I need to get the water. So that is something hygiene agent. Motivating agent is opportunity, growth, and things like that. Like, for example, why I am doing this thing is because this is an opportunity with me to meet new people. Okay, so that's why I'm doing this. That is a motivating thing for me. Why on the hell the Sunday, and yeah, it's a holiday and I'm doing marketing for this free session. I'm not earning anything. Why I'm doing this? I'm Because I consider it as a motivating thing for me. I consider it as a opportunity with me to meet more people as a growth way. Okay, so this is so all these things are motivational theory. Then we also have a Tuckman ladder. Tuckman ladder basically says that as the team move, they get developed. Like, first in the forming stage, the everyone is closed. They try, okay, hello, hi, etc., etc. They are closed. They try to do their best, but as an individual. Then in storming stage, people open up and a conflict start happen. If you handle the storming stage proper, then people start understanding the habits of each other. We get the norming stage, and we get performing stage, which is the most ideal stage, and finally we reach the adjourning stage where the team members leave each other, and like now they are leaving from the project. Please understand this thing. Here, project manager is more of a directive nature. Here, coach. Here, more of a mentor. Here, he delegate the task, let them do their thing. Again, here, he do coaching and mentoring. So that's it about execution. Any question from execution? Forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. Any question from execution? Number of people are getting less as more and more time is passing. So this is what I was saying about the motivation. The people who are motivated enough, they would be staying here. So those who are not motivated here, they will not be staying here. As simple as it can be said. Okay, make sense, guys? Motivation. Are you motivated or not? That's an interesting point of view. Acha ji, still in my point of view, a lot of audiences there. Okay, so now we go to monitoring and control. Monitoring and control is all about variance analysis, comparing planned versus actual. Monitoring and control is all about comparing plan versus actual. What was your real plan and where do you stand right now? Planned versus actual, that is monitoring and control. Okay, yeah, okay, sorry. Monitoring and control. iPad is hot now. I guess they did not made it for this purpose. Monitoring and control, variance analysis. Okay, we have variance analysis. So in scope and schedule and in cost. In scope, we may let's go with the schedule and cost. Scope I'll explain to you in a while from a deliverable journey as well as through change menu procedure. We do earned value analysis. In earned value, time it's put at one place and dollar is other rate. We say this is planned value, this is earned value, and this is actual cost. Okay, planned value, earned value, actual cost. We calculate schedule variance as earned value minus planned value. Okay, and cost variance as earned value minus actual cost. We also make schedule performance index, same thing, only divided earned value by actual cost. If it is greater than 1, it's a good thing. If it is less than 1, it's a bad thing. If it is equal to 1, like 0 or 1, that's an okay thing. That's an easy thing to understand for the exam point of view, SPI, CPI. And then your complete budget is called as budget at completion. When you change the budget, it is called estimate at completion. In order to calculate the new budget estimate at completion, we use this form. Budget at completion divided by cost performance indices. Cost performance indices. Okay. So this is how you basically earned value analysis that we do into that. Then what else I can go first? Okay. In control quality, we make sure that the deliverables are done according to the quality standards. Okay, we compare the standards. We use control chart to see the process is within the control or out of the control. If any point goes out of the side, we say that the point is out of the limit, out of the control chart. Okay, so this is called special cause. We can also use scatter diagram to identify the correlationship between two variables, or we can use fishbone diagram to identify the root cause analysis. Why in the control quality. The purpose of the control quality is to get the deliverable verified. So let me explain it with the journey of deliverable. Okay, journey of deliverable. You made the project, you made the project charter that get approved. You made the project management plan, you execute it, you get a deliverable. That deliverable goes to quality control. They check the deliverable. If the deliverables meet the quality standard, if the deliverable meets the quality standard, it is called as verified deliverable. It is, if it is not, it is rejected. It is called change request. In a while, I'll explain how to handle a change request. Verified deliverable goes to the next process, validate scope. In the scope part, here the client check the deliverable according to scope baseline. According to scope baseline, if the if it meets the scope baseline, we get accepted deliverable. If it is rejected, it goes to the change request. Accepted deliverable, all the accepted deliverable goes to the closing of the project. We'll use it in the closing of the project. This is called journey of deliverable. Okay, journey of deliverable. I hope that makes sense to you. Now, how do you handle a change request? In Agile, if a change is raised, the change directly goes into product backlog. No question asked, the change directly goes to product backlog, product owner, then with the team. It goes to product owner who put in the product backlog. we prioritize it high value and high risk, and we add it there. It's agile. Predictive, if any change is raised, it must be formal. Okay, if even a client asks, you need to email or ask to raise the change request. The change request comes to the project manager. Project manager checks whether change request is needed. He does the impact analysis on cost, schedule, cost, quality, procurement. If the change is needed, it is impacting the deliverable. If it is not, he will reject it, give the notice. If it is impacting, he do the detailed analysis, give it to the change control board. Change control board either approve it, if they approved it, or they reject it. If they approved it, we will communicate the change to everyone. We will build the change and we implement the change. This is more of a change control process. One more time, change come to you, you do the impact and formal change comes to project manager. Formal, it has to be formal, means raised by someone. It comes to you, you work with them, you raise the change request, you implement, do the impact analysis, go to the change control board, uh, change control board approved it, you build it, communicate it, implement it, rebalance the project. That is how do you handle the change request in the project. Last one or two topics. Issue. Issue is something that has happened in the project. Okay, happened in the project. Issue is always negative. You see, we discussed when you implement the risk response, there are two possibilities. You handle the risk properly, residual risk is left, that is accepted. Or another risk comes there, that is called as secondary risk. Another risk has come, that is called as secondary risk. Okay, now all these are identified. You handle them as you handle any risk, put in the risk register, handle it in a proper way. If anything occurred without identifying, that is called issue. Steps to handle issue: you put issue into issue log. You see why it was not identified, RCA. You see change request is required. If required, you raise the change request. Once change request is approved, you implement it. You update the issue log, lesson learn register, and you update the lesson learn repository. Okay, this is the entire monitoring and control process for you. The last process, closing. Step number one, deliverables are accepted. We'll go back to deliverable. Accepted from the client. You ask approval from the sponsor. Sponsor gives you approval for starting the closing. You start writing final report. You start updating project documents. You start writing lesson learn register. Once lesson learn registers are updated, project documents are written, uh, final report is written, you show it to the sponsor. Sponsor approved approve this. You share it according to communication management plan. You release the team and you celebrate the success. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the entire PMP. I hope you have enjoyed it. Now the session is open for any question and answer. I try to give all the things that you need for PMP, like high level. But if anything is missed, just ask me. I will answer those questions. Not important for exam CPR. Issue log updated first. First thing is you put the issue log, and then you work into that. Okay. If change request come before scope baseline establishment, then you don't need a change request because the scope baseline is not set. So you don't need a change request. This was amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much for attending, everyone. Beautifully summed up. Thank you. I was at the end when I said closing, I was getting chill up. So celebration of success. I was getting chilling in my body. It took more time, but I hope I added value. Role of a change log. Change management plan basically tells you how the change will happen. All the plans tells you how the change will happen. Change log is a document in which you need to put the change request throughout the project. Yes, in exam the PM book is not important. Please understand that thing. Why? Exam is based on exam content outline. I covered exam content outline. Acha ji. Thank you very much, Kishore. Thank you. And if not, you can scroll it back and watch it. Issue pro because the session is there. Any question is there that you can ask. I will not repeat anything. You can ask any question there. Will this session will be available? Yes, the session will be available on the same link that you joined. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Saiprita. Thank you. Thank you very much. You see, step number one, Yasir, you put the issue into the issue log. Once issue is put into the issue log, then next step would be to check, do we need a change request? If you need a change request, raise the change request. Once the change request is approved, implement the change request, communicate, update the issue log. Then lesson learn register, lesson learn repository. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. For everyone, if you haven't taken the training, just putting the out. My batch program is starting on 16th of December. You can join that, or you can always join my one-to-one program. The batch program fees is $499. One-to-one is $999, and my success rate is highest in the world, 359. And in the next week, I guess 20 students have exam. So yeah, I guess at least we are moving fast. Thank you, Abdulazim Sami. Amit, we need to talk. Do ping me. Mufid, thank you. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Asadullah. Uh, One thing, business and regarding compliance that I missed is basically compliance. Anything that is compliance is basically called as negative risk. All the compliance requirements are put in the risk register. All compliance are put in the risk register, and they are managed as the risk. Things that come under people are agile, stakeholder, communication, team. Process is basically all of everything. Business environment is only compliance and governance board and business case benefit management plan. Thank you. Configuration management plan is basically for product. Change management plan is for project. Okay. Impact analysis will be done before the change management. Interestingly, everyone who's asking the question is at YouTube. Everyone who registered for the session, they are not the ask. By the way, all you guys are active users of my YouTube. Why didn't you came to the webinar? If I had made it live, then what would have you done? Thank you. I already, Hamid, shared you the answer for this question. Thank you, Jen. How are compliance requirements? I answered this. All the compliance requirements are put in the risk register and they are handled as a risk. No, Udemy simulator does include question, explanation, or correction. No. Why would I put that? I don't recommend buying my Udemy simulator at all. Because when anyone buys any simulator, they hold people accountable. I just use it for my own students. Don't recommend. That's why never I ask their. I ask buy other people's simulator, because whenever I am doing anything, I make sure that people become clear the exam, and maybe you can buy the simulator and the result does not come favorable. So that's why I don't recommend my program. Thank you, Sajid Iqbal. Thank you, Pradeep. Amazing. Thank you, Gemini. I hope you loved it. Okay, guys, I hope there is no other question. Okay, so once again, if you haven't taken that training, you can contact me and we'll make sure that you become certified PMP. And this was a thank you very much from my heart. You see, attention is the most important thing. If you were here, then I can explain all those things. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And with that, Assalamu alaikum, namaste, sat sri akal, good morning, good night, good evening, wherever you are. Best of luck.
I would have not been able to clear the exam if Amer Ali would have not been there. I would have not been.
I did not believe that I will be able to clear my PMP within a month.
I don't know what to say actually. Like I'm kind of like really
And
trembling.
I got my results and I was above target in all three categories.
Wow. Ibrahim is the first PM. Abhishek, Isam, Lisa, Adiru, Janvir, Ali, Abhilal, Mali, Abhishek, Jawan, Amer, Alvin, Neha, Raju, Pradeep, Amit, Rashmi, Uzair, Aarti, Pawan, Tarek, Mandar, Usman, Johnson, Raju, Haseeb, Saban, Azim, Surinder, Mary, Samad, Nadir, Christopher, Mansoor, Venkat, Udindra, Sim, Amir, Nabil, Ali, Ashish, Usman, Naveen, Vivek, Ali, Naveed, Ali, Mateen, Chitra, Naveen, Salah, Deepak, Caroline, Limin, Bilal, Salman, Mubin, Shazay, Mr. Rukas, Mani, Nadeem, Suhail, Wasi, Salah, Idra, Amar, Faisal, Peter, Umar, Lata, Chandra, Hassan, Usman, Faisal, congratulations on becoming 350th certified PMP of 2022.